You're listening to a podcast of Wake Up with WURD exclusively on WURDradio.com.
On the line is a very special guest. Attorney Jordan Siev joins us to give an update on the Meek Mill case. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How's everyone today?
We're good. How are you today?
Well, I'm doing well, but I'd be doing better if Meek was sitting there live in the studio with you guys.
I know that's right.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, let's just go at it. What is it going to take to get him out of prison and potentially into any radio studio, preferably this one? But what is it going to take to get him out on bail?
Well, I think we've made clear for a long, long time that Judge Brinkley is not in a position to sit on this case. She's displayed vindictiveness and bias against Meek for years and years. And yesterday's hearing was just the epitome of that. So to answer your question, and then I want to come back and fill in some more details. To answer your question, I think it's going to take action from either one of her fellow judges who is hearing other similar cases involving the same corrupt police officer, or the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, to whom we've made applications for bail and for Judge Brinkley to be recused. But yesterday was rather extraordinary in that, you know, the way our judicial system works is you have two adverse parties who go into court and they say, we don't agree on certain facts or certain law or entitlement to relief. And then a judge or a jury makes a decision following a contested hearing or a trial. What you had yesterday was we applied in February for relief from Meek's conviction based on the fact that the arresting officer and the officer who swore out the warrant that got the search warrant, the affidavit, for the search warrant, Reginald Graham, according to affidavits we got from fellow officers on his squad, he lied about acts in connection with this arrest, and he lied consistently in connection with police activities. Now, what happened was he was investigated, and the district attorney, the prior district attorney, not Mr. Krasner,
Siev Williams.
The prior district attorney's office had Graham on a so-called do not call list, meaning he was deemed too untrustworthy to be a witness for the state in criminal investigations. So we learned about that, as most people did, in February, and we were told that he was on the list for conduct dating back to 2017. So based on the affidavits we had and the do not call list, we moved for post-conviction relief, and unfortunately, our case needed to be before Judge Brinkley at the time because she had Meek's case originally. So the district attorney originally said they don't oppose bail. We also asked for bail based on this. The district attorney originally said they don't oppose bail and they would weigh in on the post-conviction relief at a later time. So Judge Brinkley did not grant bail, not surprisingly. And then we went into court yesterday, and the district attorney's office stood up and said, in a rather stunning development, that they agree to the PCRA relief, meaning they agree that Meek's conviction should be vacated.
And just to be clear for our listeners, Mr. Siev, that the DA's office says the conviction should be vacated because they perceive the charges to be fruit from the poisonous tree, that it all stems from a testimony of a cop that was deemed too corrupt to actually testify in the first place.
That's exactly right.
Now, let me ask you this part, though. The Judge Brinkley, to that point, Judge Brinkley says that Meek Mill has admitted to her, at least in part, to some of the charges that she's brought against him and that he's been convicted of. Are you disputing that fact that she says?
Well, I think you hit it right on the head when you said the fruit of the poisonous tree. If you roll this back, so now there's one other thing. I want to come back to your question, but there's one other thing that came up in court yesterday. The district attorney's office said that they now understand that Graham's deceitful conduct goes back to at least 2005 before Meek's arrest. So those are two new facts.
That came out Monday.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Both these came out in court yesterday. So, of course, based on that, Brian McMonigal, the lead criminal attorney in Philadelphia for Meek, stood up and said, Judge, there's no dispute any longer that his conviction needs to be vacated. He should be out on bail. Judge Brinkley said, and I quote or I paraphrase, I'm not even going to discuss that. So she refused bail. But to come back to your question, I think when you said fruit of the poisonous tree, those were very well chosen words. To roll this back to 2005, the DA's office knows that Graham is not trustworthy. Meek, in 2007, Officer Graham swears out a probable cause warrant indicating that he saw a drug buy, and the person that they indicate in the warrant they're looking for is a 5'8", medium complexion black male. Now Meek is 6'2", and Meek is dark complexion. There are a host of other problems with that. So it's our belief, and frankly, it appears it's the district attorney's belief, that that was a fraudulent warrant, a fraudulent affidavit. That affidavit procured a no-knock search warrant that was executed the next day by Officer Graham and others, where they saw Meek outside his cousin's house, arrested him, handcuffed him, took him inside, and beat him. You've seen his mugshot, undoubtedly. Meek then goes to trial in a trial before Judge Brinkley, where Graham is the only testifying officer and gets convicted based on that. So when you talk about fruit of the poisonous tree, he should have never been in a situation where the cops were rolling up on his cousin's house and arresting him in January of 2007.
But I also just want to confirm, I just want to also go back to, is there any truth to the judge's assertion that Meek admitted to part of what he was charged with?
Meek has admitted that he had a gun. He never pointed the gun at the officers. Think about it. A 19-year-old in the midst of, the cops are in the midst of executing a search and arrest warrant. A 19-year-old black male in Philadelphia points a gun at two cops. What happens next?
They shoot him.
Exactly. Meek never pointed the gun at him. He's been consistent on that throughout. He didn't have crack. He didn't sell crack. He didn't use crack. They never proved in court. They never put in a lab report that showed that he had crack on him. So this whole thing stinks from top to bottom, and Meek has been railroaded by the justice system. You know the long history of the issues with Judge Brinkley. You have Judge Graham. You have Police Officer Graham and everything that happened with all of the cops there. The narcotics field unit has been the subject of much discussion throughout Philadelphia over the years, and rightly so. Approximately 1,000 cases have been thrown out. Post-conviction relief has been granted based on arrests from the narcotics field unit over the past 3-4 years. So what's happening here now, so Meek has been done wrong by the police in this situation, by Judge Brinkley throughout, by former members of the district attorney's office, by other probation officers who had this case early on. Where is he supposed to turn for help in this situation? So we now have a situation where all of the information came out about the do not call list in February. The public defender's office has filed approximately 80 Graham-related PCRA petitions that are all pending before the presiding judge, the president judge, Judge Wood Skipper in Philadelphia, in the same court as Judge Brinkley. So if you remember, I said a couple minutes ago, you said, what's it going to take? I said it's going to take some action by one of her fellow judges. We have asked Judge Wood Skipper, we asked Judge Brinkley on the record yesterday, if she would send the case to Judge Wood Skipper, who's handling 80 other PCRAs related to Officer Graham. And Brinkley claimed that she didn't know that this was happening and that she would discuss it with Judge Wood Skipper. So on Friday, 80 similarly situated cases are going to be handled by Judge Wood Skipper. Why isn't Meek's case there? We have never, ever asked for special or better treatment for Meek based on who he is. But why should he be treated worse? Why should his case be singled out and set for a hearing in June by Judge Brinkley, a hearing that nobody wants? Both sides to the litigation agree that the relief should be granted. There's no need for a hearing.
Exactly. Hey, good morning, Mr. Siev. This is Ike Raw here. I just wanted to ask you a question as far as, because I know the city, it's a lot of outrage in the city because a lot of people say, why everybody rallying for Meek? Why everybody want Meek to come home? Everybody else locked up like Meek. And I always try to let people know that right now, Meek is the face of this situation. It's been going on. I've been through it, a lot of other people. But I want to know, have you talked to Meek about any plans that he got, to get involved with the community as far as, people that have been in his situation to speak out and, be more active, helping other people as well?
Well, not only is the answer to your question yes, but I was listening. You had Reverend Holston on. I've been to Reverend Holston's church twice and met with him and other members of his team and other organizations. Not only is Meek committed to this, to righting this injustice for all of the Meeks out there who don't have the celebrity and the Brian McMonagles representing them, right. But we've talked to Reverend Holston, we've talked to others, and we are committed to making sure that Meek's case is used to shine a light on the problems that are caused by Meek. Meek had an 11.5 to 24-month sentence handed down in early 2009. He's been on probation ever since. He was given 8 years of probation. Think about that. Right. That's 4 times the length of his maximum prison sentence. Is his probationary sentence. So think about the cycle that perpetuates. As Meek has said, if he would so much as jaywalk, he could get thrown back in jail. And Meek has never committed a crime since his original arrest. He's never missed a court date, and he's had his probation extended time and time again by Judge Brinkley. Before he was thrown in jail last November, his probation was set to expire in 2023 for a 2007 arrest when he was 19 years old. Think about that. I would venture to say any of us would have a hard time complying with the type of probation requirements that Judge Brinkley put on him. His daily schedule had to be transmitted. If he switched a show from Atlanta to Miami and didn't properly notify the court, he's an entertainer. He's out there performing. He's recording. He's got a very difficult schedule to manage. These are the types of violations that got his probation extended to 2023. He didn't commit another crime.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Siev, and this is our last question as we have to go to break. Where we exist today, what is the next step for the legal team? Is it to appeal to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court?
Well, we would like Meek's case, two answers. We'd like Meek's case handled along with all of the other Graham PCRAs that Judge Wood Skipper is handling. And so that's number one, because this case should not be before Judge Brinkley. And number two is we have applications pending in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court for Meek to be granted bail and for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court to recuse Judge Brinkley from any further involvement in these proceedings, since she refuses to do it on her own. So obviously yesterday's development is very significant, and we hope immediately pushes Judge Wood Skipper and the Pennsylvania Supreme Court over the line, so to speak, to take immediate action. First and foremost, Meek should not spend another minute in prison. Just think about this in closing. He's in prison based on agreed false testimony. He has been since November. The prosecution does not believe he should be in prison and that his conviction should be thrown out. Yet he spent last night in prison after that was revealed to Judge Brinkley.
Well, at this point, he's just a political prisoner, right?
Yep.
I think that's very well said.
Yeah.
Free Meek.
Free Meek Mill. That's attorney Jordan Siev. He joined us today to give us an update on the case for Meek Mill. And we learned yesterday that, there's a lot of developments in the case. And you guys are now petitioning that Meek's case and all of the cases that were handled by Reginald Graham, the officer who was deemed, along with 28 others, too corrupt to testify, to be handled by Judge Sheila Wood Skipper, and that the current judge, Janine Brinkley, recused herself. Is that about right?
That's right, with one correction. Judge Wood Skipper has all of the cases involving Graham except Meek.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, yeah, he did say that 80 of them, right?
Yeah.
80 cases on her docket for Friday. There's no reason why Meek...
Right.
Again,
That's important to note.
Yeah, that's the politics of it again.
Right. We're not looking for special treatment for Meek. We're looking for the same treatment for Meek. He should be in that same batch of Graham PCRAs that are before Judge Wood Skipper.
Thank you so much for your clarification and for your time today, sir.
All right. Have a good day.
You too. Meek. Absolutely. It's 9:25. We got to go to break. That was attorney Jordan Siev who called us to give us an update on the Meek Mill case. We got to go to break. We'll come back with more Wake Up with Word.
You've been listening to a podcast of Wake Up with Word, heard here Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. till 10 a.m., exclusively on WURDradio.com.